Hello artists, so we are going to be drawing painting two trees today with acrylic paint for our landscape unit. And in my Bob Ross calendar was this. You know me, I think there ought to be a big old tree right about there, and let's give him a friend. Everybody needs a friend. Thank you, Bob Ross. That's exactly what we're going to do today. That's today. We're going to take our canvas paper and we're going to fold it in half along the long edge, I guess hamburger style. I didn't really learn all that hamburger hot dog stuff, but not the hot dog there, just the hamburger, and cut along the fold. This is our canvas paper. And you can see the canvas paper has a white side and kind of off-white side. We're going to use the off-white side of this strip of canvas paper. We're going to use black and green. They look really similar, so make sure you're getting the right color. Black is black and green is green. And go ahead and put your name on the back of the strip so that you can make sure it's yours. Put the period number, and we're going to get started here with our acrylics.
Alright, so we're using our small round brush, and on our palette, we're actually going to take black and yellow. So pull those aside, and if you have a new kit, the first thing you want to do is unscrew it and make sure there's no little thing there that prevents the paint from going, you know what I mean, the little seal. You can peel that off and throw that away, and then you want to mix your paint. And so this is a great way to just kind of mix your paint, or you can go like this, but you want to make sure you put your finger on the top, right? Okay, so do that for the yellow and the black. And then when we put paint on our palette, you guys in class, you have a little cardboard, and at home you have a plate, or maybe you have a lid. When you put paint on your palette, we're going to put a chocolate chip size. So, like that. Not a lot, okay? And so, because we won't use a lot of paint right here. And then with the black, put it a little farther away so you have some in the middle, some space to mix. So that was yellow and black. So you might be asking me, why aren't we using the green? Okay, and we will use the green in the set, but not right now. So put that off to the side. We're just using the black and the yellow. And when you first paint, you want to just get your brush wet, so it's just a little bit damp, and then take your paper towel and kind of just wipe off the extra water. And we're going to mix a little bit of yellow and a little bit of black together. So I'm going to scoop up my yellow here and make a new little section of yellow here. So I'm not using all of the yellow. This is going to be the place that I mix. This is going to be the place that it's the pure yellow. Okay? And after every time, if you need to get new paint, you wash your brush. I'm washing my brush here. And you dry it. Kind of squeeze it a little bit every time. Okay? And then I'll get a little less black than the yellow. And I'll mix it together, and let's see what color we get. It should be like an olive green, or maybe you would call that an army green. Really get that mixed together. I'm going to zoom in. Okay, so I moved a few things around here so that I can better access them. But right here is my green that I mixed, the olive green. So what I'd like you to do is when you load your brush, that means when you put paint on your brush, you don't want it right here. You want it at the tip, almost like if this were like a ballerina and like a foot of a ballerina. You just want it on the tips of its toes, not back down here by the heel. Okay, and we're going to do something we're going to do our first tree on the left here. So I'm going to take my brush and just make a trunk. That's with the green you just mixed. Okay, the green you just mixed. And it doesn't have to be straight or anything because trees in nature are not straight, right? They're kind of all twisty. Nature is one of my favorite things to paint, not because I love nature, but because you do not have to get it correct, right? And let me see here. I think I'm going to switch my brush. I'm not very happy with this brush here. It's a little too thin. I want my example here. We'll do this one. Okay. So then with that same green that we mixed, I'm going to load my brush. Again, I'm loading it about halfway up. It's not getting up here. And I'm going to do something just called touch. I'm just going to touch to make branches. Touch, touch. And if it looks kind of, you want it to look irregular. You want it to look scratchy. And I'm just making some marks, and I'm trying to use all of the paint on my brush because that will give you a variety of value. And then once I've used it all, I can go back and load some more on my brush, and I'm just touching. And I'm making just some branches right now. Pull this down a little. Okay? And don't make them all the same. Like maybe some branches have 2 or 3 branches coming from them, and some branches have 1. Just touch. This is called touch. Maybe there's a small little branch coming off the tree close to the trunk. And if you don't get it perfect, don't move the paint around. It's just a touch. And this is just like the beginning of a tree. Okay. So clean your brush when you're done. And we're going to write some notes on how we are doing this specific tree. Because when we start painting our landscape paintings, you're going to have a whole bunch of different trees. And you're going to go, I want this tree. How did I do it? Remind me how I did it? Oh, yeah, I did this. Okay? So this one is called touch. Right? Touch. And we used a small, round brush. Please write that on your notes. In whatever. It doesn't have to be whatever. Might be a little bit better light. Okay, so we're going to let this one dry, and we're going to move to the next tree. And we're going to now use that, on this tree, we're going to use the actual green from the bottle. This is called phthalo green, and again, you want to shake it up. Put it on a different place in your palette. I think most of this is dry here, so just put it in a little different spot. Use just chocolate chip size. That's the phthalo green. And this one, we're just going to take the paint right from the bottle for this first step. We're going to make our trunk. And a lot of times trunks are a little wider at the bottom, right? Well, almost all the time, except for like bamboo. And this one is called touch and drag. So go ahead and watch for a minute. This one, you can either go this way, and again, it's just the tiptoes. It's just the very tips of the brush. touch and drag this way, or you can go like out, like touch and drag that way. And you want kind of the ends to be kind of feathery and uneven. It's called touch and drag. And I'm kind of going a little bit upwards with my strokes. And this is all, I haven't reloaded my brush yet. This is all from one time loading my brush. So you can see you can get a lot here. And the variety of value is really good. And you can cross right over. Some of them can cross over each other. Right? Trees are a three-dimensional thing, so they definitely cross over. And then clean your brush. Okay, and this one is called touch and drag. And this is also a small round. Touch and drag. You'll notice the difference when we're done with the brush strokes. We're going to let that one dry. And we're going to come back to this one over here. So moving back to this touch tree here, and moving back to where we did the yellow with the black, we made that olive green or that army green. I'm going to take whatever I have left. Hopefully it's not too dry. If it's too dry, you can mix some more black and yellow. But I'm going to put more yellow in it to make it a little lighter. And more yellow. Okay? And clean and dry my brush. A little bit more yellow in there. We're going to do a highlight. And you might want to go to that black and yellow mixture. I'm going to add a little bit of white just to lighten it up. So put your white somewhere else on your palette. You just need a small amount. Clean my brush. And you're just going to take a small amount of that white. And you're going to mix it in. That was probably too much. That's okay. Okay, small amount. And now we're going to do this lighter olive green on the right side of the touch tree. Okay, because that's where the highlight is going to be. So it's like there's a little sun right here. Okay, and a tree is three-dimensional, so we're mostly going to do it on the right side, but we're going to cross over to the left side a little bit, and we're just going to touch, and you're going to either go over or next to some of the touches that you had. You want some of that darker green to show through, so, and you also want to cover up some of the canvas paper. Okay, so just touch, touch. And use as much of that green on your brush before you reload. You also want to go across the trunk and over a little bit into the left side. Because remember, it's rounded. And don't feel like you have to cover it all up right now. We're going to do another step where you'll put some more in. Paintings like these have lots of layers, and it's important that we let it dry in between the layers. So make sure it crosses over the trunk, but mostly on the right side, and then clean your brush and get ready for the next thing. Moving on, we're going to let that tree dry. We're going to go over here to this right tree, the touch and drag tree. Remember, this was just the green from the bottle, right from the bottle. okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to take that green right from the bottle and kind of move it over and make a new little spot to mix in. Really get that down there, clean it off. And we're going to use a little bit of yellow. We're going to mix in some yellow. And I exhausted my yellow. So I'm going to put another chocolate chip size down there. Really clean your brush before you put it in the yellow. Take some yellow. You can always add more and mix it into that green. And it makes a really nice grass green. I need more yellow. It makes a really nice grass green. That phthalo green, I know some of you in the class really liked, but me personally, I like this yellow with the green, with the phthalo green a little bit better. It's a little bit more realistic of a color in nature. Not that it's bad, but. And then I'm also going to mix in that grass green that we're mixing right now, a tad bit of white. So just putting a little bit of white on the tip of my brush. You can get a little too much, so less is more when you're mixing paint. You can always mix in more. Any questions about that? Okay, so we're going to do touch and drag again, and we're mostly going to do it on the right side, and we're going to go either on top of or over, and we want to have this really wispy tree. So when you drag, you're kind of lifting up your brush a little. You have these nice little wispy areas here, almost like feathers. And if the brush gets kind of dry and the paint gets kind of dry, that's even better. And you can do a few over on the left, right? Because especially at the top, the sun kind of bent. Well, it doesn't actually bend, but it goes around to the other side because it's a round object, so it's not just half and half. And I'm just putting in some really light. I did all of this with one loading of the brush because I like all that scratchy, dry brush texture for this style of tree. You can see now why Bob Ross was right? Everybody needs a friend. Yeah, Bob. Don't forget to clean your brush really well. We're going to go back to the touch and drag, and we need to put in now the shadow, which is on the left side mostly. So remember, this tree was yellow and black, right? And so I'm going to take my yellow here, which I don't have very much, a little bit of yellow, mix it right here, and a little more black. So clean my brush, like a tiny amount of black. I'm going to take a little bit of black on my brush and then kind of dab it off, because even there it's really strong. And the first time you put it down, you'll be able to see if it's darker. And I'm just going to touch again, mostly on the left side, but I am going to go over the right side. I need just a little bit more black here. I'm sure on the video it looks really black, but in person I can tell that it's more of a dark green, of a dark olive. But having this variety of value is really important in something that is like out in nature. I am going a little bit over in the right side, the light side. You can still see some of my canvas paper. And so when you look out on a tree in real life, you can see some of whatever's behind it, the sky or another tree. Okay, so it's not fully painted in. You also need to paint the shadow. So down here at the trunk, just right down here, I'm just going to take my darker olive green, and I'm just going to go off to the left. And I kind of like it that it's kind of scratchy like that, because my light source is on the right, so the shadow is going to be on the left. And I'm kind of just dragging my brush off to the left a little bit, and picking up some of the texture of that canvas paper. And then clean your brush. So we're going to put in the shadow on the left side here. So again, this side is the green right out of the jar. So here's that for me. I have that right here. And you need to add a little bit of yellow to it. Here's some more of that green. You need to put more down. You can put more down. This is dried paint, so I can paint right on top of dried paint. It's not going to mix in. So I've got that phthalo green right from the jar. I'm going to first add a little bit of yellow to it to make it look a little bit more realistic. But instead of adding white this time, I'm going to add a little bit of black. Just a little bit of black. A little bit of black goes a long way. You can always add more black. There we go. And you're just going to do that same thing. Touch and drag on this side, right? So touch and drag. And you're really just using the tiptoes of the brush. Try to make the smallest mark possible. And go across the trunk here. Go a little bit into the right side. This adds a lot of depth. And use all of the paint on your brush before you reload. It's really important that you do that. You get this really dry texture that is very different than just the touch. Okay, and just go over each area a couple of times, filling in little bits, touch and drag. Especially down at the bottom here on the right side. That's probably the darkest on the right side, is underneath the bottom, where it's not getting as much light. Make sure you're going across the trunk as well. Oh, I like my tree. And every time I do it, if it's a little dry, it's going to add another little layer of darkness. So you can see I'm doing this pretty heavily. I'm not holding back. Okay, but it's really a practice thing, you guys. This is not my first tree. I would not say that I'm a painter, but this is not my first tree. And so your first tree might not look like my first tree, and that's okay. I just want you to paint and try and paint, right? So we do need to, with this darker mixture though, I'm just going to bring the trunk down a little bit and then put in our shadow here. Just going to put in kind of more like a suggestion of a shadow than an actual shadow. But the shadow would be a little darker like that. There. Okay? So we're not quite done yet. What you want to do now is actually look at your trees and go, where do I need to fill in? What do I need to change? For example, I might want to add a little bit more of this lighter grass green on the left side. I don't know, I just am thinking it doesn't have enough, especially up at the tops of each little branch, to make it look like it's kind of catching the light. So painters go in and paint many layers, and they're kind of constantly fussing with it until it looks right to them. Some painters are very detail oriented, and some painters are much more expressive. So over here, like, I just feel like I need a little bit more, maybe the black and this guy, maybe I'll mix it over here. Just a little bit more of that lighter shade. So now I'm not really cleaning my brush. Now I'm just kind of using the rest of the paint that's on my palette to fix areas that I think need to be fixed. And this is just a touch. So see, I'm just adding in another little layer, and it really does make it look better. So the more layers you can put, the better. And that's why acrylic paint is so great for beginners, because you can paint right over your mistakes. Once it's dry, you can paint right over your mistakes. I might need a little bit more of the darkness here. So I'm just kind of now going kind of off the cuff until I'm still using the same colors, but going a little bit, just filling in the areas that I want to make it look more realistic. So yeah, but that's what you do to paint a tree. This one's more like a fir tree, and this one's more like I don't know, maybe a spruce, or this one's like a Douglas fir, and maybe this one's like a pine, like a pinyon pine. That's maybe what I think. Douglas fir, pinyon pine. If you know your trees. Okay? So I'm going to stop fiddling with it so I don't drive myself crazy. But that is our first kind of introduction to trees in a landscape. Oh, I have to fiddle. I have to fiddle. There's so much more I could do here. It needs to be darker. I'm going crazy, guys, here. Dark, dark, dark. Needs more dark on this side. That contrast really is important here. That's even better right there. Okay. All right, bye.
So here are some of the trees that I painted over the last 4 classes. Kind of fun to see them all together, which ones I like better, which ones I like. I think this one's my favorite of that kind. I don't know which is my favorite. I like this one. I like this one. So that is painting trees. Next time we're going to be doing some bushes and grasses and that good stuff. So get ready for that. All right. And I'll see you in the next video. If you are watching this on YouTube and you are not one of my students, I would love your subscription. If you could click the like and subscribe down at the bottom, I would be ever so grateful. All right. See you in the next video, guys. Bye.